performance last week. You'll get Kevin Harris back this week. You might have Doty back as well. How much does that change what you guys will plan to do, or does it change at all?
It doesn't really change much. As soon as we can get back to full strength, we'll be a lot better off getting all those guys out there. But it really won't change the plan dramatically at this point.
John Widow on the back right.
Yeah, Luke said that he wanted to feel good running to be able to go on Saturday. What have you seen out of him these last couple of days of practice? How does he look running, and do you feel like he will be ready to go for Saturday?
I think it's definitely going to be close. I mean, he was moving around well today, throwing the ball well. This week we've really pushed him towards more of 100% reps to see what he can do. Make sure that his foot's where it needs to be, and I'm anxious to see when we get to game time if he'll be ready to go or not. But he looked good today.
Stay in the back right with Hale.
What did you think of Saturday night with how Zeb played, and just kind of your overall impression of that?
He played like I thought he would. I mean, he took care of the football, called the plays, organized guys at the line of scrimmage, got the ball where it needed to be. The stage wasn't too big for him. It wasn't too fast for him. So it was good to see him go out there and execute and take care of the football. And it didn't shock me. That's what I was expecting him to do.
Is there any kind of progression to this week or whatever moving forward for him, or is it just kind of the same, just be that
No,
same
I mean,
steady
he
guy?
keeps getting better. I mean, there's stuff that he's working on daily, just checklists of things to get better, like you said, each week that he needs to improve on. He's still just been playing football now for, I guess, 4 weeks. So we're looking forward to watching him develop a little bit more each week.
Let's go to the front left, Ben Portman.
Saturday, I think last weekend, you guys were a little better than 50% on third down and 2 or 3 on fourth down. Just what do you think you guys were able to do to string together those drives and make those plays in some of those situations? And, what is it that maybe it was Zeb or the rest of the offense were able to do to keep those things alive?
I think we were just staying on schedule, and we stayed on schedule, and we were able to push the line of scrimmage, and we should have been able to push the line of scrimmage, and we were able to, we didn't have any really negative yardage plays in the run game. So that always helps. And then we had short fields thanks to the defense and the pump blocks. So we were always in that territory where it was like third down, 2 downs. And so we were able to run the ball on third down more than we would be normally, which allowed us to have, I think, a lot more success. I would love to do that every week. It's just you got to be able to, again, field zone and run the football like we were the other night.
Let's go to Rick Henry, front right.
Marcus, after this weekend, will you have a better idea of your strengths and weaknesses because you're going against better competition?
100%, yes.
Let's go to Michael Onana right in the middle, front middle.
Watching your offense in action this past Saturday, got to see some of that creativity with obviously Jaheim Bell and DK Joyner lining up and at quarterback and all of that. Just how much added discipline does it take for players to be able to execute those kinds of plays and things like that on a game day? And how important is it just to have those kinds of different looks and unpredictability in a game?
The key is you got to have football guys at those positions. I mean, guys that understand football and can see what you're saying and what you're trying to portray, and then go to be able to execute it. The other thing is just through repetition. I mean, those guys have been doing that all summer, all of training camp, and so it wasn't anything that we threw new on them last week. It's just what we've been doing. But those are all smart kids and have multi skill sets. I thought DK did a tremendous job. I was wanting to get him way more reps, but once the game kind of got in hand and we wanted to get those younger quarterbacks some reps, we just decided, DK's played enough. But his role has to continue to grow at the quarterback position moving forward.
Let's go to David, front left.
Marcus, a couple for you. One on the 2-point conversion. How much input did you have into that, either from calling it or from designing it?
0. But it was beautifully executed. When I watched it Sunday, I was like, we need to have that play in. That was blocked better than any run play we blocked all night. It was great.
And second, I believe it was the second possession. You guys had a 4th and goal from maybe the 3 or so, decided to go for it. Just what was the thinking going into that? And, was it just the constant mindset we want to be aggressive right here?
Yeah, Coach Beamer did it, to be his first game as a head coach was tremendous. It was sometimes even on second down, just, hey, Sat, you're going to have 2 downs here. So, just keeping me ahead of the decision making so I could be aggressive and could run the ball. And once we got down there, he goes, we're going to score a touchdown, like whatever it takes, like we're going for it. So we had that attack mindset all the way down to the goal line.
Let's go to Colin in the front right.
Marcus, what have you seen from East Carolina in the film that you've been able to watch, and just how do they kind of match up with what you're trying to do offensively?
you watch them. If you just watch the cut-ups of the game from the other night, you're shocked that they got beat by Appalachian. They got a bunch of guys that have played a lot of football, have been playing a long time. Really impressed with their front seven. I think their front seven is the strength of their defense. And they got some very talented and confident, athletic kids in the back end. But those 4 defensive linemen get after it, and we're going to have to be at our very best to be able to have success in the running game and protecting our quarterback, because those guys can get after you without even blitzing anyone with those front 4.
Let's go to Corey in back left.
Marcus, I'm curious. Obviously, the job of the offensive coordinator is to put the offense in the best position to score points. Once you got score and then the head coach decides to go for 2, what goes through an offensive coordinator's mind?
I'm up there just thanking the Lord that we scored a touchdown, and if they go for 2, they go for 2, and then I respond to whatever the deficit or whatever the lead is, following that. But a lot of times I had no idea they were doing that, and so whenever they did it, I've given them 5, and that was exciting. But I have no input, and there might be a time later on in the game where, hey, Sat, if we score, are we going for 2? And I'm doing the game management stuff. Me and Coach Kimmery up in the box and looking at the 2-point chart and the available drives remaining in the game and what gives us the best. I'll be involved in those conversations, but a lot of them like that one early in the game, I had no idea.
And another question for you on Quan. Just what do you like about him as a player, as a person? What do you like about exactly what he's bringing to this offense right now?
I'm sorry, who did you say?
Zaquandre.
Zaquan, okay. I know him as Z. When you said Quan, I was like, oh, my Lord, I don't know one of my players. Just like I've told everybody, I mean, since spring ball, he hasn't missed a rep. And he plays the toughest, hardest position in football. He gets hit every play. The only position that's not protected in the game of football is the guy carrying the ball. So for him to not miss any reps from spring until now just talks about his toughness, competitiveness, durability, his commitment to certain things, to playing running back. I'm not going to jinx him. I'm not going to jinx us, but his commitment to making sure that ball is king is crucial. His commitment to a different run style, one cut knife run style is crucial for his development and his improvement. He's out there today. I mean, he's the leader. He's running his mouth in a good way, getting everybody fired up, getting the energy of practice going. It's just I can't imagine being out there without him. He's so important to our offense.
Let's go to the Daily Gamecock, middle right.
Hey, Coach, you guys had some costly penalties on Saturday. What have you guys been doing in practice to cut back on those?
Just constantly talking about them and putting them in situations, stressful situations. We know that they're tired, and then we may change up the snap count, just to make sure they're locked in. But it's something that definitely, if we were in a close game, could have really hurt us last week.
Let's go to Ben Portnoy, front left.
Marcus, I guess when you were at Baylor, you guys went to Rice and played one of these games, Power 5 at a Group of 5 school. I guess just what's the challenge of that for you guys this week? And I guess is there any different dynamic with that? I mean, what's it like preparing for that, on y'all's side this
like
week?
we said last week, we have to earn the right to even have that conversation. We have to win a lot more games before we're even in a situation to even compare Group of 5, Power 5. We know that this is going to be one of the hardest games that coaches, players have ever been in. The environment is going to be electric. It's one of the toughest places. I played there once when we were in Temple. It's one of the toughest places to play a college football game. It's going to be packed. It's going to be hot. It's 12 o'clock kickoff. They're licking their chops. We have to go in there and be prepared for one of the toughest things we've ever been in our life. And that's how we're preparing this week.
Colin, front right.
Marcus, the old coaching cliches, the most growth comes from week 1 to week 2. What did you learn about your team week 1, and where are some things, I guess, what's next for this offense as you get into an ECU game week?
Just confidence. We have to believe that we can do certain things. I think just the way that we carry ourselves out on the field, the way that we break in and out of the huddle, utilize our tempos, go from point A to point B, the body language, the energy. We have to believe that we can be a good offense. And even though we were having success last week, I told them, guys, we're not down 40. We have to pick up our body language and our energy. Enjoy this. It's hard to win a football game. It's hard to get a lead in a football game. So I think just the overall demeanor and belief has to continue to grow moving forward as we play offensive football here.
Augustus Stone, right behind the camera in the middle.
So when you have a group of 4 or 5 really good running backs, how do you decide kind of who gets the carries? How do you split them? And then how do you see maybe throughout the season that number changing? We saw like a committee approach, in theory with Zaquandre and everybody. So just kind of, do you see that changing as you see who's doing well, or do you think it'll stay roughly the same?
The person who is most productive is going to play, and the person that practices the best during the week is going to play. It's my job to make sure, again, that we're getting those guys out there on the field and not standing on the sideline, whether it be 2 of them at one time, 3 of them at one time on the field. But we can't have those guys. They're the best players on our offense. We can't have them standing over there on the sideline while other guys are on the field. So that's a job for me and my staff to make sure that gets done. And then, like the other night, there was a lot of them because we had a lead, and so we're trying to develop the growth of those young guys, getting them some experience. But if it's a tight game like it's going to be every play this week, whoever's the most productive is going to stay out there.
Hale, back right.
Sort of a random observation from the game, but it looked like on a couple of those running plays when Zeb, or I don't know if other quarterbacks did too, would hand the ball off, he'd kind of put his hand on the running back's back. And I don't know is that something y'all
That's something he
teach?
does. It's his way of, like, it's a quick hitter. It was a quick hitter, like a short yardage deal. He said he's done that his whole life. He pushes them just to kind of give them that extra nudge, just an extra shot of understanding. We call it skip a rock. Go skip a rock and get the first down.
Have you seen?
I noticed it too. I'd never seen him done that until the other night in the game. So
He didn't do it. He didn't do it in practice.
I never noticed it one time in practice, but I noticed it the other night in the game. Good observation.
Corey, back left.
Marcus, are you happy with the first game that you called, and how do you grade and assess yourself after game 1?
Never happy. All I can see is, my wife's like, you just won the game, but all I see is just the 5 or 6 calls that maybe I didn't like or didn't flow, and just it eats me up. And so, I think we did well enough. I think the organization, the administration, the communication was really good, especially for a first game. But there's always, like any coach would tell you, room for improvement. But I felt confident, felt comfortable. It's like riding a bike. Just wish that I had a couple of those back early on that I think could have been a little bit more successful play calls.
Let's go to David, front left.
Marcus, what was your reaction to Jordan Birch running downfield with that pick 6?
I said he should be a tight end.
Which leads me to the next one. Any, mad scientist stuff about maybe getting him on offense?
I'm trying. He better be playing a lot of snaps over the next couple of weeks, because I'm in coach's ear every single day. Like, that's the most natural run and catch I've seen in a long time.
John Whittle, back right.
Offensive line, biggest positive takeaway and the thing you're harping on to improve the most over the course of the week?
I thought that we moved the line of scrimmage. Again, we had an advantage there, so that should have happened. The thing that we had to improve on is just continuing to get better in pass protection and understanding the different launch points of the quarterback and how we attack certain blocks. It's different when there's a game going, like when it's a game in the field, the fans and the band and all that stuff. So I'm anxious just to continue to grow in our pass pro, but I'm happy where they are in the run game.
Anything else for Coach? Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Clayton White here, and we will go ahead and just open it up for questions right away.
Good afternoon. How y'all doing?
Let's go to David on the front left. First one.
Hey, Clayton, what is put the ball down, the defensive mantra? Where did that come from? What does it mean?
Well, I got that from Dave Huxtable, former NC State defensive coordinator, who's now an analyst at Alabama. So him and Jeff Collins kind of got that thing going. So I kind of adopted it and made it to myself. And put the ball down is just a mindset. It's make sure that every day that the kids come to the building, that their mind is set on football, and erase everything outside. And then no matter what, no matter when, where, we want to play football. We want to play defensive football and sound ball. That's really what it means. It's a mantra more than a. It's pretty cool. I've been going with it for a while.
Let's go to Hale in the back right.
Can you share any horror stories from being in Greenville, North Carolina, as a player or coach? Do you have anything that's kind of sticks with you?
I'm very well aware of how things going to be down in Greenville. I've obviously been a North Carolina guy. Some of my very, very best friends are ECU faithfuls and ECU, alums, and it's going to be a great environment. Had a couple horror, nightmares. I don't want to relive those, but I tried my best to make this week about the Gamecocks. But more importantly, it's definitely going to be a great environment. Looking forward to the challenge.
Is that what you mainly tell your guys? Is it's a great environment and going to be tough playing?
It's one of those great East Coast environments on this side of the country. East Carolina's a great place to go play football. Far as atmosphere and fans and all that good old stuff, you have to respect that, and we'll make sure our guys have a healthy respect for their program.
Let's go to Colin in the front right.
Speaking of East Carolina, just what have you seen on film from them offensively, and kind of what do they kind of major in from an offensive standpoint?
They obviously rely a lot on their. They have a big offensive line. They rely a lot on their quarterback, who was a big time recruit. At NC State we wanted him, and then obviously he decided to stay home. They have two really good running backs. 47, 25 are really good players. Wide receivers have always been a thing for East Carolina. It's a highly skilled football unit that plays fast. They play hard. Coach Houston has done a great job. Of all the previous coaches before him also built the foundation at East Carolina, and they're just trying to continue that tough, hard-nosed play that they've always had for decades.
Stay on the right side, Daily Gamecock.
Hey, Coach, you guys held Eastern Illinois to no third down conversions last Saturday. How important is that to carry over into this Saturday?
It'll be nice to keep the momentum going in that trend. I think our guys understand how important it is on third down. Sometimes, those are clutch moments that you guys got to really be locked in. Offenses are calling their best plays to obviously move the chains, and we're trying to get into the best call to get off the field. I think that's very important that our guys have that mindset of get off the field, get the offense back on the field. Third downs is clutch, man. So, we got to understand that the stakes are kind of high.
David, front left.
Clayton, shutout, 2 picks, 2 sacks. What do you do for an encore? And when you're talking to the guys, how do you kind of draw the line between saying, hey, great game, but that was then, and then you got another one to play?
Yep, I would say Coach Beamer kind of sets that tone. We all believe in, if you come in the defensive staff room, the very first thing on my board is the defensive policy is 1. It says defensive staff policy is 1. It says celebrate all wins. They're hard to get at this level in college football. So we celebrate the win for 24 hours, then we flush it, and we move on to the next opponent. And you have to do the same thing with your players. I mean, they work hard, they go on the field, they win the game. You have to let them know the good things they did, the things they can improve, and how we can improve as a ball club. And I think Coach Beamer set the tone for that. So it's really easy for me to go in on Sunday and kind of transition to the next guys.
Stay on the left side, Corey in the back.
Clayton, I'm curious, want to get your insight.
Yep.
Zaquandre, when he was at Florida State, played some linebacker. From your vantage point, being a defensive guy, are there any characteristics from the linebacker position that can carry over to the running back spot?
Absolutely. When recruiting, you're hoping that the guys you're recruiting at linebacker have some offensive background, for particularly running back, because of the vision and the timing of the blocks and understanding the flow of plays, and just the IQ aspect. They kind of give offensive guys a little bit more, so you kind of develop in that area. And when you come to play defense, I was an offensive player in high school. When you come to defense, it kind of slows things down. It's kind of perfect. But a running back in high school is a perfect linebacker at this level if they have the growth potential like Zaquandre does. I remember him out of high school, too. He's a good player down in North Fort Myers.
Let's go to Colin, front right.
Clayton, the old coaching cliche is that the most improvement happens week 1 to week 2. What did you learn about this defensive unit in week 1, and what are some things you really want to see clean up as you get into ECU game week?
The first thing I learned that, one, they were able to bring training camp, spring ball focus into a live environment and a scrimmage against our offense, bring it to the game on a Saturday at a higher stakes. And I was proud of that, how they perform. Obviously, right now going from week 1 to week 2, you continue wanting to clean up just the footwork, your eyes. There was some big play potential out there that you guys probably didn't see on tape that we're going to harp on all week. As obviously at DB and linebacker, that's where the big plays happen at. So we're making sure that we covering those things that didn't happen, so we can try to, answer those questions before they even get asked.
And how have you seen Brad Johnson kind of grow as he transitions to, I guess, full-time linebacker, and where have you seen the most growth from him over the course of training camp and then week 1?
The most growth from Brad has just been play recognition. I think when you're down on the line of scrimmage, it's only you're probably going to read the tackle and then read the tight end or the back, and then the play's over with. At linebacker, you have to recognize the actual big picture formation, the big picture backfield set, and then the big picture of the defensive scheme. So I think for him, he has improved in that area. He's really shocked me in that area. I told him that all the time. He was a smart defensive lineman. But obviously Brad's background and with Coach Peterson, obviously he did a great job of just teaching him the overall football, defensive football, and just the big picture. But for me with Brad, from an on-the-field standpoint, he's continued to improve his footwork, just trying to, being from a 2-point speed stance guy now to a 2-point power stance linebacker, and just transitioning left and right. I think he's improved. Those are things he can continue to work on.
Let's go to Rick Henry, front right.
Clayton, is it easier or more difficult to get the guys' attention, especially when you're trying to correct mistakes after a blowout win? Would it be easier if you're doing that after a loss?
That's a fantastic question. It's actually harder to get their attention after a win, I think. So that's our job as football coaches, is to kind of flip the script. So, okay, so you guys played great, but here's some mistakes that here's some things that happened. Here's the things that could have happened when you're playing, obviously, a SEC opponent. So, like some of those plays, that was 7-yard runs could have been 25-yard runs versus another opponent. So we want to clean those things up to make sure that it doesn't happen in the weeks to come.
Let's go to Hale, back right.
Going back to Brad, with his experience playing that buck position, how much does that help him when you're sending him in as a pass rusher and getting after the quarterback that way? Or is it just too different because they're different positions?
No, that's a good one. It definitely helps. He understands, how tight those little windows are going to be. If you send him the blitz on a linebacker versus coming on the edge, he kind of understands just how things work up front. He understands that if a lineman hits me, that's going to be some heavy hands hitting me, so I got to make sure I have great balance and great base about myself. But him coming the linebacker from the buck position, he's transitioned very well, and he's just going to continue to get better.
Let's go to the Daily Gamecock, middle right.
Coach, I'm sure you heard that Debo Williams was named SEC Co-Freshman of the Week. Just how proud are you of him, and how do you keep him locked in to just keep getting better every week?
Yep, Debo's a guy that you really don't have to keep locked in, so I text him, congratulations. After I saw it late, I was about 5 hours late, so I hope he didn't feel bad. But when I saw it, that's when I realized it. And he just told me, he said, Coach, keep being hard on me, keep pushing me. I said, brother, I'm proud of you. You're going to be a good player here. Just continue to work. And that's him. So there's not a lot. You don't have to push Debo Williams to, as far as work, and just continue to develop him as a football coach. I think he's going to just flourish as long as he's here at South Carolina.
Let's go back to Hale, back right.
With the DBs, it seemed like y'all kind of rotated them in pretty fair amount. What do you feel like you were able to maybe see some separation between some of the guys with what they put on film the other
No,
night?
not really. We knew going into this thing that it was going to be a DB by committee type of thing, just because of all the guys that they lost last year, trying to develop everyone. So the focus is right now is get as many guys as we can, get as many fresh legs to cover bodies as we can. That's always been my philosophy. The more you have, the better off you're going to be in the long run. So we're going to continue to roll guys. We're going to continue to keep guys fresh. This road gets a little thick here a little bit, so I want to make sure we got fresh legs to cover.
Let's go to Corey Diaz, back left.
Clayton, and a follow-up on the secondary.
Yep.
How would you just describe after the first game their cohesion and chemistry, and were you surprised at all at kind of how they came together pretty quick?
I thought Coach Gray did a great job of just putting the game plan and getting those guys understanding their opponent. They practice very well, so the way they practice and the way they work, I'm not really surprised at the outcome, but I was very happy that how they transition to the game, how they manage themselves, how they communicate it, the way that they make sure that the linebackers knew the checks. I mean, Jalen Dickinson one time walked up and gave the defensive line a check and literally walked up 10 yards and walked back. So they had great intent to go out there and perform well, and I was proud of them. I really wasn't surprised. I was just more proud.
Let's go to John Little in the back right.
Sticking with the secondary, you said going into the last game you knew it was going to be by committee. Is there a point where you don't want it to be by committee and you know who your top guys are to keep out there for the most part?
To me, that's a position where you want as many good players you can on the football field. So we're going to keep it rolling the way it is right now. We love how it's doing because, to me, I just know you got to have bodies ready the way this thing is set up in the SEC. And right now we're just going to keep grinding guys and it's all about developing as well. We have some young guys, so if you set them down too long, they kind of may go off to the left. So you want to keep them all on the right path, and I think that's where we are as a defensive unit right now. We want to stay on the same path together. Last week we talked about one guy shine, we all shine on defense. So we want to just keep that mindset. If Cam makes a play, we all should be celebrating. If D. Rush makes a play, we all should be celebrating, and so on. So that's kind of how the room is built right now, and we're loving it. Just want to keep it going.
And you have R.J. Roderick available to you this weekend. Do you think he'll start?
Yes, R.J. will be out there for sure.
Let's go to Augustus down in the middle right behind the camera.
So yesterday we heard from Brad Johnson. He told us about how excited you get and how it makes everyone else like really excited to like be at practice and to learn plays and stuff like that. So I want to know, just in terms of your passion and excitement, how important is that to your coaching style, and what are some, examples or instances where you can tell that your energy is really fed off to the guys?
I really can't tell when my energy feeds off of them. I just try my best to make sure that I'm not so high and I'm not so low. Obviously, there's times when you can't control it on both ends of that bar. So I try to be more the same for the 95% of the time. And they just know when they talking to me, they know that I love football, I love defense, I love offense, I love special teams, and I love coaching and developing. So I think that's what gets them. There's really not a lot of things else going on in my life right now. So it's all in on this right here. So, and they feel that, and I think that's the most important thing, and they give it back to me. And we meet halfway, and let's see what happens.
Stay next to Augusta. Go to Ben Portnoy right next to her.
Clayton, not that it's necessarily a surprise, but obviously Jalen Foster had a bunch of plays this past weekend. Just is that something you guys have seen from him week to week? I mean, as a guy that can make those plays, be a little bit of a ball hawk, or I know turnovers are kind of to some degree just right place, right time, but what have you seen from him to be able to make those plays and to make those steps and be a guy in that secondary that maybe you can rely on?
Yeah, definitely a guy you can rely on is Jalen Foster. He's one of our smarter IQ football players we have back there. He understands, things before they happen, and he understands, how things set up. He understands the big picture. So for sometimes you'll see those guys in position more than other guys who are more flashy because they can see things and they can have anticipation and imagination, that whole creativity. He has all that. So he's learned the playbook. So I told him, just like I say, Phil Jackson would say, once you learn the triangle, now you can make it yourself. You can be creative, and that's kind of where Jalen's at with it. He knows the whole defense, knows three positions. So I just say, go do your thing. Just make sure you're where you're supposed to be at, but use your own imagination. That's where he's at. So it's awesome. It's great to see. I love when guys get to that point in their career.
Let's go to Colin Taylor in the front right.
Clayton, from a big picture perspective, I'm not asking you to reveal state secrets, but from a defensive game plan perspective, how much does it change week to week based off opponents, or is it just this is our scheme, this is what we're going to run?
So just every single defensive coordinator we have, it kind of breaks down like you have staples, right? Everybody has their own staples they're going to run every single week. For the most part, they may tweak it here and there. And then you have things where you feel like you have it figured out and you can completely, get after them. And so then you have those. Then you have situational game planning. So it does change every week because obviously teams aren't the same. But for the most part, you have your staples, you have your scheme ideas, and then you have your situational planning.
Let's go to Corey in the back left.
Yep.
Clayton, scoreboard aside, are you happy with the game you called out the first time, and how do you just sort of grade and assess yourself as a coordinator?
To me, it's like the way I actually assess it is that at the end of the day, did I get the calls in on time? Did we have the right personnel on the field? Did we do a good job as a defense of just communicating on the headsets? Did I make the right call based on the situation? Those kind of things. When I go home at night, I lay down, I say, all right, I got all that stuff out on time. I didn't have the players looking at me what plays. There was no hurry up. So kind of graded off that. I don't really, the scoreboard part that's the bonus, that's the extra stuff. But as far as just operating as a coordinator and as a defensive staff, sideline adjustments, are we doing those things? Yes, so that's kind of how we grade it.
Anything else for Coach White? Appreciate it.
Thank you guys. Have a good afternoon.